as you can see here in the agenda, we have after each section, we have reserved some time for Q&A. And then at the end, we still have another 20 minutes for any remaining Q&As that you might have. So first, a bit on the introduction on the PCP, then shortly about the timeline and some practicalities, and then a bit more time again on the documentation and the evaluation part. It will be me talking, so you'll be hearing from me for the next hour or so, and Ari is here to moderate the questions and help with the answer. So let's get started, and we start by a short SPACE4Cities introduction. Although I do hope that now all of you on this call that you have seen the tender documents and the website, and that you have familiarized yourself with the project. So you know that this pre-commercial procurement is a bit of a special type of innovation procurement projects, a bit rare. They're not so familiar yet, PCPs, among companies or cities for that matter. There's not that many. We are funded by European Union for the Space Program Agency, so USPA, by Horizon Europe, and us on the Forum Virim Helsinki side are coordinating this project. It's quite a long one, 3.5 years, although the first year has already passed, so time flies by. And because it's a PCP, I'll go through the phases in a bit more detail later, but it's very clearly phased into an open market consultation in which we discuss both with the procurers and potential suppliers, and we formulate the challenges and the requirements. That is behind us now, and the call for tenders is open, obviously. And then then we go with a group of suppliers through these different phases, from solution design with low TRLs to prototyping phase with a bit higher TRLs, and a field testing phase with TRLs more or less 6 to 7 at the end of the project. And then there's the exploitation and scaling part, which is on your desk as suppliers. There's also piloting, field testing happening in the buyers group cities. There's 5 cities involved in this project towards the end of the project, and additional smaller pilots in 10 replicated cities. So 1 big and 2 small pilots for the suppliers who make it to phase 3. 2.87 million earmarked for suppliers, for companies and organizations getting an offer. Quite a large pot, but also quite many consortia will be awarded. So we'll get into the budgets a little bit later. So this is a pre-commercial procurement. So maybe good to go very shortly into the role. So we have a buyers group, the procuring partners under the lead of Forum Virim Helsinki. We are owned by like the innovation agency owned by the city of Helsinki. So we work for and with and very closely related to the city of Helsinki. The municipality of Amsterdam, the municipality of Kymaraj as well, Regional Development Fund of Attica, so the Athens region, District 9, which is part of the city of Ghent, and the network Open and Agile Smart Cities. Those are the buyers group partners. And we have an expert partner, Aerospace Valley from Toulouse, who led the market consultation and supports us, the buyers group, in the evaluation process and all the kind of the more technical contacts with the suppliers. We've refined the PCP target. The buyers group is also in charge of making the final decisions on which suppliers to select. And of course, we will provide you, the companies who make it to phase 1, with background information, whatever you need for your solution. For example, additional data sources that you might need. And we also provide the testing sites for your prototype solutions in the last phase. A supplier can be a single entity or a consortium, and there is no limit to the number of partners in a consortium. You just need to be able to make very clear to us that this is a reasonable number of partners. Every partner has a logical role, and it makes sense budget-wise as well. So given the budgets, we don't expect a very huge consortia of 10 plus companies, but it's up to you. I just need to justify in a credible way why your consortium is as it is, and it can be one single entity as well. Note though that you have to already have your consortium in place in the very beginning of, when you submit now your offer. Even though this is an offer for phase 1, we sign a framework agreement for the entire 3 phases. So you need to already anticipate the number, the type of expertise that you will need also in phase 2 or phase 3 if you make it there. And these need to be included in your consortium, even though perhaps they wouldn't have a role yet in phase 1. Keep note of that. Also, subcontracting is allowed within the regular, let's say, Horizon Europe rules that a subcontractor can only have a clear, dedicated part of the work, and also allowed for sure. And so not only companies, startups, SMEs, larger companies, but also research organizations are eligible, or non-profits, as long as you can make it credible to us that you can scale and commercialize this solution. The supplier, the lead tenderer of the consortium, or signs the framework agreement for all these phases and the specific contract per phase, to start with phase 1, of course. Now, I do want to note these agreements, the contracts, they're non-negotiable. So I really recommend perhaps your legal team to read through this in advance, that there are no surprises if indeed you get awarded, that it doesn't end up with the legal team needing a month to go over the contract and then wanting all kinds of changes, for example. That is not possible. Just a recommendation. All right, hey, the challenges content-wise. So this is all about using satellite data to manage urban spaces in a dynamic way in cities. Satellite data is a bit underused type of data source in cities at the moment. Cities use all kinds of data sources, of course, but satellite data not very much yet. And in this particular project, you as suppliers, you have to use Copernicus Earth observation data and or Galileo GNSS data or services as part of your proposed solutions. These need to be an essential part of your solutions. They can definitely be complemented with other data sources, also other satellite data sources, but we are funded by USPA with this particular requirement. So this is why we put this requirement to the companies as well. The challenge descriptions, I hope you have read by now. They are published in the tender documents and on the SPACE4Cities.eu website. They are also described in tender document 2, particularly also the use cases in Appendix 1. We've had a whole webinar series on the challenges, on the 3 different challenges, 3 different webinars, and they are recorded, and you can find them on the website. So on a high level, they concern mobility fields, and we have then these kind of thematic areas: active mobility, public transportation, logistics, accessibility, and drones. Then there's the climate resilience challenge, under which also is the risk modeling and predictions, emissions and air quality management, green transition, and green cities. Quite broad challenges, like broadly described. The third one is urban planning and management, which relates to digital city models, data inventories, and policy simulations. There can be and will probably be some overlap, possibly, in your solutions between these challenges. That's not a problem. You have a chance to indicate on your submission form which challenges you cover, and you can check multiple boxes there. So no problem there. All right. These use cases that are in the annex of tender document 2, I hope you've seen those too. They are not meant to limit or necessarily direct you to a certain solution. They are examples of the needs of cities, and you can cover one or more or none. It needs to fit under the challenges. That is the main point. And please remember, you're not tailoring a solution for a single city. It needs to scale everywhere in the EU. This is a very important criterion, the scalability and replicability. And of course, as is the nature of a PCP, it's very much needs-based. So you have to really focus on real problems that cities face and a solution that you can develop for that. I mentioned already the Copernicus and Galileo data. That is essential. But as said as well, it can be complemented with other methods. This is an innovation project, an R&D project in the core, and the best combinations of methods and data sources need to be discovered. We hope you will come up with highly innovative, never seen before type of combinations of data or methods, for example. But it's still quite, well, you still have quite free hands. Let me just see there. Yeah, please also do carefully read the chapter on where we describe what we mean by innovation. Innovation can be technical and using different methods, and also in relation to AI and big data analysis, automation, etc. Let's say more technical, but innovation can also be in terms of more, let's say, soft aspects or target groups or business models or merging of use cases, etc. So there's a wider definition of innovation, which we have described in the documents. Please read it through. Let me move on. Something shortly on data sources offered by the buyers group. You might have seen on the partners page, and there's a QR code here as well, that we have already collected a first list of existing data sources of the different buyers group cities, which will continue to be updated, also based on the type of data that the phase 1 suppliers, the winning 20 consortia, will need. So you can request, not yet right now, but the 20 suppliers that will be selected for phase 1 can request additional data sources from the cities through a monitoring team that will be appointed to them. We are also looking together with USPA and ESA to see what additional satellite data sources we can provide to you. But if so, they will be added to the website. So I will say a bit still about the PCP. I hope this starts to be a bit of a familiar graphic to many of you that visualizes the different phases, where we are now in the second yellow greenish ball on the left that says call for tenders. This is the phase we're in now. And the evaluation will take place, of course, after the tender closes on the 9th of April. We aim to inform you on the 7th of May with the results, and then the phase 1, the solution design, with 20 suppliers, will start in June. And this will be a 3-month phase, June, July, August, and then there will be a an evaluation process after that. So the phase 1 has a 36,000 euro budget per supplier. And when I say per supplier, I mean per consortium, right? So if you have a consortium with 3 partners, you're not getting 3 times 36,000 euros. No, it's one pot, whether you're, one supplier applying or a consortium of multiple. After phase 1, we have an evaluation round, and there will be another tender asked from you to write for the phase 2, the prototype development, and we will drop 10 out of the 20 phase 1 suppliers and move on with 10 suppliers to the next phase, a 90,000 euro budget. There, a little bit longer phase as well. After that, again, 50% will be dropped. So we go from 10 to 5 winning suppliers in phase 3, who will then do the field testing, the piloting of their prototype solutions with again, a bit bigger budget. So number of suppliers decreases, the budgets increase over time. And then the last part of the project is all about scaling, about follow-up procurements, about business models, and engaging on our side also as many cities as possible to connect these 5 winning suppliers to. So that in a nutshell on the process. So we hope that we're very enthusiastic about this kind of pre-commercial procurement process here in Helsinki. We've done already, I think, 7 of such types of projects. What we like about it is the close collaboration between suppliers and public authorities at a very sort of early stage of the development of solutions. We hope that's also something that you would appreciate, and that it helps you to address your future markets as well. Of course, we hope the funding is attractive to you. A total of 376,000 euros per supplier who goes through the entire process from phase 1 to phase 3, which leads hopefully to a lower investment needed on your side for market opportunities. You will have these field testing opportunities that I mentioned. You can reference them for when you commercialize the solution after the project. We will provide all the support we can during the project's lifetime. And you retain the IPRs, the suppliers retain the property rights of the solution that they develop. The buyers group under this PCP and under the contract has the right to access and exploit these results on a royalty-free basis. These will be tailor-made agreements after the end of the project. It doesn't mean necessarily completely free of charge, but royalty-free at least, with no fixed model yet agreed on that. I mentioned the budgets already. PAT0 notes that, and the duration of the phases mentioned in this table are including the administrative processes of signing the contracts and the evaluation, etc. So they are in practice a little bit shorter. So do note that if you are indeed selected for phase 1, it's a short phase, and since it's June to August, it covers also the summertime, obviously. But it is a long project with very clear steps and phases and timelines. We are quite unflexible with timelines. I mean, unfortunately, on the one hand, maybe it would be sometimes nice to be a bit more flexible. On the other hand, it provides very clear timelines, quite long in advance. So we hope everyone can plan for that accordingly. Okay, I mentioned, I think, many of the items here already, just to emphasize that during this phase 1, I mean, we don't necessarily expect you to start all the way from scratch. It's fine if you build on existing solutions or tools that you have. However, the solution can absolutely not yet be on the market yet, commercially available anywhere. You need to really, the solution design is really, let's say, desktop phase still, where you were description of what you aim to do, and you carry out research on the feasibility of the concept, etc. So it's you elaborate and refine the concepts that you describe to us in the offer. There will be an in-person review in Amsterdam at the end of the phase, so this will probably be in September sometime. The kickoff will be online. Of course, the group of suppliers in phase 1 is quite large, with 20 suppliers. So we limit the traveling, notably in this phase. This monitoring team that I already mentioned shortly, it's the primary point of contact. So this team consists of members of the buyers group and our technical expert partner. We help to connect to the right stakeholders in the city, to collect data sources that you might need. We give feedback on the development. We have kind of progress calls. We help with the templates and make sure the timelines are kept and etc. So they will be sort of the support team for each supplier in phase 1. Phases 2 and 3, maybe not to go into it too deeply, but in phase 2, prototype development, more technical work done. You need to demonstrate it and validate it in lab conditions, as the formal term is, which basically will be simulations, I suppose, in the case of this PCP. And then in phase 3, pilot demonstrations. So in real life conditions, in the real departments, in the cities, with the people who will be using the solution afterwards. All right. This closes this first part, and maybe I look at Ari to ask that, because I can only see the slides and not the chat or the questions. So any?
Yes, indeed. We do have quite a few questions, and we can go through them per topic.
Yeah.
And if there are some questions that we do not have time to respond to you right now, we will still have time to go through them at the end of the webinar.
And also good to mention that all the questions will be, the questions and answers will be published on the website, which has already a very elaborate Q&A page. So also I encourage you to read through that, and any new questions that will come today, we will add them to that. Yeah, but
yes, so we can take it from the top.
Yeah.
So yeah, first question, just about the eligibility of different organizations and the commercialization. So the question was, so a supplier can be a research institute, which is obviously yes, but the follow-up question is, should it provide evidence of commercialization in their solution?
You should describe as clearly as possible that even if you're a research organization, you will be able to commercialize this solution, because it's not a, let's say, obvious role, right, for a university necessarily, or a research institute to be also at the same time a market player that commercially sells solutions all over Europe. So you need to maybe, well, however you want to do it, maybe put up a spin-off, or you cooperate with another company in your consortium, or I don't know, but we cannot advise you on how to do it. You need to describe convincingly that you're able to commercialize.
Yeah, I may also add that for call for tenders and phase 1 selection, we have one award criteria about commercial feasibility, and that is about first convincing us that your solution is scalable across Europe. And when the PCP progresses, given that you are chosen as one of the suppliers, then there will be more and more specific criteria about maturing your commercialization plans and showing the feasibility of like scaling.
Exactly.
So the requirements for commercialization, they will increase
Throughout the project.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, the next question is, can a replicator city be a part of supplier consortium?
No.
Yes. So if a European city is applying to be a replicator city, then they have to stick to that role and they cannot participate as a supplier. So next question about the PCP. So,
this is Alex, just to intervene here in a moment on this question. I think it's worth noting that there will be a separate call for replicator cities.
Yeah.
And I think a city can become a replicator by joining this call for replicator cities only, right? So.
Thanks, Alex. Exactly. So this was Alex Luak from OASC, our project partner responsible for the task. So indeed, yeah, and we very much welcome as much involvement of other cities around Europe as possible, but through the replicator call, which will come a little bit later in the project, not yet now.
There was a follow-up question, like what are replicator cities? So replicator cities are European cities that are chosen to field a smaller pilot than what is fielded in the main BIOS group cities. So each supplier that makes it to phase 3, we'll do one big pilot in one of the BIOS group cities and 2 smaller ones in replicator cities.
Yeah. So there are cities that are also very dedicated to this topic, interested in as potentially procuring these solutions after the end of the project, and willing to put some staff effort, perhaps data sources, etc., available to engage actively. The costs for these pilots are on the supplier side and are included in the budgets for phase 3. So with the phase 3 budgets, you're expected to do 3 pilots.
Yes, let's continue. And again, if we don't have time to respond to all of you during this time, we will come back to these questions at the end of the webinar. But yeah, so next question about the PCP process. So is the maximum number of suppliers including subcontractors?
No.
Yeah, so the answer here is that the 20 suppliers that are chosen, they can be either like individual suppliers or consortia of multiple players, which also can include the subcontractors. So if you are using subcontractors, it doesn't take up a supplier spot, so to say.
No, and I mean there's no maximum limit to the number of companies in your consortium, as I said earlier. Yeah.
Yes, the next question. So in phase 1, you also have to provide budgets for the subsequent phases, but are they binding prices? And the answer is no, they are not for the phase 2 and 3. Phase 1,
yeah,
there is only
binding, exactly.
Yeah.
And then there will come another. You need to submit another financial offer for phase 2 at the end of phase 1, and that will then be the binding one for phase 2. So for 2 and 3, they're indicative right now.
Okay, and then there is another question about the PCP process. Then we can move quickly up to the challenges and data sources. So, can a company that is not based in the EU be part of a consortium if the other members are based in the EU? And the answer is yes. The 50% rule that applies to the work done in this PCP is calculated based on the value of the work. So even though if your company is part of the consortium, like your like EU-based members, they have to carry over the 50% of the work.
And the 50% rule means that at least 50% of the value of the work needs to be carried out in European countries or associated countries.
Yeah.
And the list of associated countries is on the website in the Q&A page. It's quite a long list.
All right, so now we can move to the challenges and data sources for a couple of minutes before moving on. So there was a question, can satellite data sources from other sources be complemented with Copernicus data? And yes, indeed, it can. It was mentioned in the presentation, and it is encouraged to use multiple data sources. It is required to use either Copernicus or Galileo data in your solution, but otherwise we give you free hands in using other data sources. Yeah, then there was another question about mobility data and anonymization. So can the proposed solution also include mobility data from existing and available social networks, given that this information is anonymized to respect privacy? And the answer here is yes, it can be used as long as it is anonymized in a way that the single person cannot be identified from the data.
Needs to comply the GDPR rules.
Yes, our Form E has two clauses that you have to pass in regards of the use of anonymous data. Yeah, there were a couple more challenge-specific questions, but I do suggest that we will come back to them a little bit later because they're a little bit longer to discuss. But for the person who was asking these questions, I have them saved now.
Yeah.
But let's stick to the schedule.
Yeah, good. Let's do that, and we will have some time in the end as well for additional questions. Really good. Let's continue. This is just very shortly about the timeline and the practicalities, only 2 slides. You're aware, hopefully, that the deadline is by the 9th of April. So there is still some time to go. And then we will use the second half of April to evaluate the tenders, more on the evaluation later. And we foresee to inform all of you on the 7th of May on the decisions, who will get a contract for phase 1. The contracts we will then sign during May, and it starts in June, phase 1. And the tender submission, I hope you have familiarized yourself to some extent already. You need to start by submitting the Form E, which is a web form with check boxes, and it relates to compliance and exclusion, and that you don't use child labor and are not bankrupt and such kind of questions. Please have a look and complete it. Because when you have submitted that, you will receive a verification email that contains not only your unique tender identification number, but also a link to the tender submission form. And this tender submission form, there's then some basic information asked from you about the tenderers, like names and etc. And then that's also the way how you submit the tender forms A to D, which is the offer and the financial offer and the summary, etc. We'll get back to those. During this call for tenders process, now where we're in the time that the call for tenders is open, there's a couple of resources. I mentioned already the webinars that are related to the several challenges that we had. They are on the website. There's a very large Q&A list already on the website. Make use of that too, please. And good to note that we have a matchmaking tool, which is a relatively simple, let's say Excel, where every company who's interested and is still looking for consortium members or complementary partners, let's say, or different types of expertise that they need, they can look there and see if there's anyone listed of their interest, and they can put themselves there as well, that, hey, I'm offering this kind of expertise and looking for this. And there's, I don't know, now recently, but I think we're around 90 already, different companies.
104.
104. Well, there you go. So there's a lot of interested companies on there. So please do use that. We hope you find it useful. It's otherwise kind of out of our hands. You don't have to, ask for permission or anything. Just go ahead and proactively start contacting the people that you think are interesting on there. All right. Eligibility, we touched upon it already. Here's still, by the way, the QR code to the matchmaking page. But we already mentioned, right? Companies, research organizations, non-profits, and the commitment to the commercialization is important. You can, consortium, one tenderer, also okay. Matchmaking, I mentioned. Let me see. Yeah, there's been some questions that can we submit multiple tenders, multiple offers, or can we be part of multiple consortia? You can, if you find the time, let's say, to do this this work in the next month and a half. The solutions must be different from each other. Obviously, I would always say, almost say, and also you must be, you must, prove or be able to show that if you would be selected with multiple offers, that you're actually able to deliver the work as well. If you would be part of two consortia, for example, or and that you wouldn't charge the work twice. That you need to be very careful of. But no limitations on that end. Okay, well, this was very short already, just on this. So maybe if there's any sort of more practical questions, also a bit about eligibility, I guess. Anything, Ari, or do we?
Yes. Yeah, we are a couple minutes late from the schedule, but it's okay. Like, I guess we can take like a couple.
No, we're not.
Yeah, I guess
okay.
we can take a couple simple questions. So, yeah, there was one question about. So, is the funding conditions in SPACE4Cities same as in participating in Horizon Europe? And here the answer is that you will be paid as a lump sum by our project. So suppliers, they don't need to interact with Horizon Europe themselves. So participating in SPACE4Cities is easier than participating directly to a Horizon Europe project.
The reporting requirements are also lighter, and for companies participating in Horizon Europe, there's normally there's like a certain preset co-funding requirement. Might be, that it's 70% funded or 80% funded. We don't have that particular requirement. We do expect that the money that we provide through SPACE4Cities, that it will not cover exactly all the work that you will be doing. We do expect that there will be an own investment, own R&D investment on your side as well. But as said, there is no minimum or maximum requirement on that. So it's a little bit different in that sense. And indeed, the contract is with us, not with the European Commission on your side. It's us, the procuring partners, who have the contract with this Commission, and you have the contract with us.
Yeah, well, this could be also answered during the evaluation part. But there was a question, do you prioritize larger and more ambitious development projects over simple and elegant solutions? Thinking about the budgeting, like 36 plus 90 plus 250k euros, isn't that much for a large multi-partner consortium, while it is plenty for smaller refined solution?
True, and I mean, it's also from the side of the European Commission, in general, they like to stimulate the growth of startups and SMEs, but there's not, let's say, a requirement that we have to award 50% of the suppliers needs to be SMEs or startups or something like that. So there is no KPIs in that regard, but it is exactly as that's also our experience with previous PCPs, that these budgets are just not as interesting for the really large scale projects, or so, consortia or companies, because the budgets are not so enormous. So just because of that, we do expect that maybe we will attract more smaller companies rather than the very large ones, but there's absolutely no preference, let's say. So it's important that it's credible, that you can make it credible to us that you will be able to deliver a highly innovative solution in this timeline with these budgets. And it really doesn't matter how large your company is.
Yes. Well, here is one simple question. I suggest we take this and then we move forward. So, can the proposed solution be a substantial improvement to an existing commercial solution to be considered innovative?
And you said this is a simple question.
Well, yeah, but like, isn't the answer here? It is like it can be considered innovative, although you need to reason it. But like, where does the innovation lie in your substantial improvement?
Yeah, because we are very concretely looking to solutions that are not yet on the market. So it needs to be made very clear that how would the rollout of this concept then look in the longer term?
Yes, although the definition of the innovation that we use here is also finding a new novel combinations, novel use cases.
Yeah.
So like thinking of this, then the substantial improvement can be considered innovative.
Yeah. Indeed.
But yeah, I would suggest, like, let's leave these more complicated questions
for later, and we go to the forms. All right. This is diving a bit into the documents and the tender forms that we have. So there's a whole bunch of documents. I hope and assume you have seen these by now. So there's the tender document 1, the call for tenders. It's the large file with the description of the phases and how the tenders, like the content and format of tenders, the evaluation process, etc., with a whole bunch of appendices, including, for example, the scoring models, very detailed time schedule, preliminary time schedule, also examples of how your reporting is going to look like at the end of the phase, to give you a bit of a feeling for how much work this will be, which we hope and expect it will be relatively limited. Also, please note Appendix 7, the table of page limits, in which you will see that there's a 25-page limit for Form A, which is the technical offer. That's important. And you cannot upload or add annexes or other additional information to that. You really have to stick to those 25 pages. In tender document 2, very importantly, the functional requirements, the requirements for phase 1 and the preliminary ones for 2 and 3, and also in annex the use cases of the buyers group, in which for each use case we indicated which cities have a particular interest in these, as mentioned previously already. The tender document 3 is the framework agreement, quite elaborate. As said, you might want to consider reading through this or have your legal team browse it through so you won't be surprised later on. This is non-negotiable, this document. But for phase 1, of course, the prices, the amounts will be inserted still, but otherwise no changes there. And then the forms, important forms that you have to use to submit your tender. The technical offer, it's the template that you're going to have to use and complete and then turn it into PDF and submit it. You will see when you have the tender document 2 with the requirements and the Form A with they're matching, right? So in Form A, all the the questions that please describe how, and then it refers to the requirements from tender document 2. Be as concrete as possible, and note the page limit is what I would like to say. Form B is the executive summary, 3 pages max, which we will use potentially if a pre-evaluation round is needed, about which a bit more in the next slides. The financial offer, that's kind of an Excel template with a cost breakdown. Power of attorney, just the legal information and the signatures of the consortium. Only relevant if you are a consortium, not if you're a single partner. And then the Form E, as mentioned already, it's an online survey form. Let's say if you don't receive public, like double financing, if you read it through, it's a bunch of checkboxes, and do please early on already start submitting that, so you get the form to upload all the other forms from A, B, C, and D on our online platform. All right, I've mentioned this already. The requirements you have seen in tender document 2, there's the functional, non-functional, project management, commercial feasibility, and price requirements. We'll come back to it a little bit later as well. And then there's a relation to these, are just some examples that I just mentioned, that it says describe how, and then there's a field for you to describe in several paragraphs, or how much you want to use for it. Relating to the requirements. Okay, the summary, well, I went 2 or 3 pages, the financial offer here. Note in the green line below that the actual price, excluding VAT, so VAT 0, that is the part that will be evaluated. Prices are relatively low weight in the requirements, as you will see in one of the next slides. But that is the one that will evaluate, and we are. What is not an evaluation criterion is the co-funding, nor the virtual price. And note that these actual prices, they must respect the maximum budgets specified per phase, per supplier. I mentioned it in the previous webinar as well, and I can say it again. This virtual price, it's a bit of an odd concept, perhaps. It's specific for pre-commercial procurements, and it relates to the fact that you, the suppliers, you will retain all the IPR, and the virtual price is the one that you would have quoted if the IPR and ownership would have been retained by us, by the buyers group, by the cities, and you would not have the possibility to exploit the results. Then likely the price would be much higher, and that is the virtual price. I would personally not have minded to leave this out, but we are also bound on our side by the templates provided by USPA, by the European Commission. So this is what we work with. But as said, the actual price is the one that will be evaluated. All right, this is relatively clear, I think, the power of attorney. And this is the form I mentioned earlier as well, Form E. Bit about the evaluation then. So there are exclusion criteria, selection criteria, compliance criteria, and award criteria. And these first 3 are via Form E and are relatively, they are more like an admin check. It won't be done by the full evaluation committee. But the ones who pass this first check will then be the offers, I mean, that pass this first check for the first 3 criteria will go through the full evaluation. So the award criteria, based on the award criteria, the ones that I mentioned earlier, the functional, non-functional, project management, commercial feasibility, and price. And the process is so that after we close the tender on the 9th of April, we will do an administrative check, and we will check the first 3 types of criteria. And then we will see, depending on the number of offers we receive, if we will do a pre-evaluation. We will, if we receive more than 65 offers, which we of course really don't know in advance, we will do a pre-evaluation based on the summaries that you are providing via Form B. And it's maximum 60 offers that go through the full evaluation step in step 4, in which your Form A will be evaluated. This is for kind of time management reasons for a large part. It might be if we are suddenly faced with having to do a full evaluation of 120 offers, for example. This will not be possible with the number of evaluators in the timeline that is set for the project. So that is why, of course, we cannot know in advance how many offers we will receive. But, well, this is the process that we will do. For the pre-evaluation, it's good to mention that every summary then, in that case, Form B, will be evaluated by 3 different evaluators, and there will be the average grade of that will count, and we will then select the top 60 and then move on to the full evaluation by the Technical Evaluation Committee based on the award criteria. Again, 3 different evaluators per tender, and evaluators cannot judge the offers from a supplier from their own country. We will, in this first phase, make use not only of an evaluation team consisting of the cities and partners involved in this project as buyers group members or technical experts, but also we will use a small group of external evaluators who will notably evaluate the innovation criteria. This is the weights that we have attached to the award criteria in phase 1. I recommend you look these through. There are also award criteria for phases 2 and 3, but those are indicative, could still be changed, and there will also be some criteria added, notably usability and user experience, piloting, which is not yet now relevant for phase 1, but will become relevant in the later phases, and the legal maturity as well. But for now, this is the list of 11 let's say criteria that will be taken into account with, as you see, a relatively low weight for the price. And commercial feasibility also relatively low still in this phase, but the weight of that will increase over time throughout the phases. Okay, I would imagine there's a couple of questions on this topic.
Well, for the evaluation specifically, there is only one. There is quite a few to go through, like after this. But so about evaluation, does partnering with other organizations give additional points in the evaluation?
No.
No.
Yeah, that is easy. You just need to make credible in your offer why this group of partners or lack thereof is a convincing team to produce the best solution, and no bonus points for for a bigger team or more partners or anything.
Well, okay, I consider this also evaluation related. So there was quite a long question from Sushil, yes, but I will abbreviate this a little bit. So you described the use of different virtual environments, and can they provide additional acceptance? I understand you mean extra points in evaluation. Well, the
virtual environments.
Yeah, like 3D models and.
Yeah.
So, but the first answer here is that as a project consortium, we cannot give you specific feedback on certain solutions. So that's why we cannot now answer you directly. Like, is the use of virtual environments beneficial for you? But yeah, what I do recommend is that find a good problem that you are going to solve, and if the kind of the use of this virtual reality and other modeling technologies help in either solving it or help in illustrating your solution, then they are like valuable additions. But otherwise, we won't comment on the actual solution.
No, and plus we can also, it's not like if you use all of those, you will get per definition all kinds of bonus points if you use all kinds of spectacular techniques. But of course, we are clearly aiming for a high level of innovation, and things need to go really beyond the state of the art, your solution. So that is, if you can prove that that's what you're doing, or prove or make a, describe credibly that you really go beyond the state of the art. Yes, that will, generate higher scores logically.
Yeah, there was like a second part about the novelty, but indeed, it is up to you to reason to us that, like, how is your solution innovative. But yeah, these were like strictly evaluation and documentation related questions. There are still quite a few just about the PCP and a couple about the challenges.
Yeah, well, I think we're well on time. We have now kind of next half hour. We're through the slides more or less, and let's take it away.
Yes, I will start with this PCP process and financing related questions. And well, to note, please have a look at our Q&A, because quite many of us, many of these questions are already answered there. But of course, we will go through them today as well. Yeah, first question is, can the number of consortium members change through the phases? Yeah, well, basically, this is the question. And the answer is, the number of active consortium members can change as long as the members are set in the beginning of the project. That
they are part of the framework agreement that we will sign in May.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And of course, there might always be some force majeure reasons if a company goes bankrupt through the process or something, then this needs an amendment to the agreement, and this is kind of on a one by one case would need to be discussed. But in principle, you need to set the consortium that you need for the entire project duration. You need to set it now in the beginning, like now when you're writing your offer. And it could very well be that some project partners in your consortium would not be yet active in phase 1, but only in phase 3, for example. Not a problem, but have them in the framework agreement already.
Yes. All right, yes. So next question. Are there any timeline requirements proposed by us? And yes, indeed. So have a look at our project description on the website in case you missed it during the presentation. But each of these PCP phases have a specific timeline. The phase 1 starts already in June, and in June in the phase 1 you will have 3 months time to develop your design for your solution, and after that there will be a evaluation period, and then the next phase. But now
November.
Yeah, November.
Yeah.
So
Oh yes, here's the timeline overview, and also there's the bit more detailed timeline in Annex 5 of tender document 1,
Yeah.
which has more or less exact dates with deadlines for deliverables and deadlines for reporting and kickoff meetings and everything. Now they are not written in stone, but kind of. So have a look at that as well if you need more detailed timeline information. And there's also the same timelines apply to all the suppliers that will be selected for phase 1, and they are also non-negotiable. So.
Yeah, then there was quite an interesting question from the same person who asked this, and thank you, Fatsa, for rephrasing the second question. So this is about small proposals that do not take up the whole budget that is available. Well, the initial question was that can there be a tender with multiple small ideas, and can that be selected?
No.
Yes.
In that case, I would recommend to submit multiple tenders with smaller budgets, and that is totally fine.
Indeed.
You definitely don't have to take up the whole 35,000 euros for phase 1, for example.
Yeah, indeed. So if you have like multiple smaller ideas that are not connected together, or that do not like make up like a single big kind of like unified solution, we do recommend that you can submit multiple proposals as was mentioned in this presentation, in case you joined late. But yeah, do not kind of like combine like small solutions that are not connected together in a single one.
Yeah.
But definitely like the smaller proposals are welcome. I guess that covered it. Then there are like a little bit more kind of like financing related questions. So like piloting and financing. So is the pilot expected to be deployed in all of the buyers group cities or only in few of them?
In one buyers group city and 2 replicator cities.
Yes.
So there will be 3 pilots in 3 different cities in total, and you will not know which cities until very late in the project. This is because we will not know yet until after the evaluation of phase 2 who will be the 5 winning consortia. So the allocation of who will pilot in which city, it might very well be that we cannot do this. We can only do this after the selection of the phase 3 suppliers. So that's why, which anyway ties in very well with the concept of PCP. Your solution needs to be scalable to all kinds of cities, and you need to be prepared to pilot wherever we send you, let's say, whatever city you get allocated.
Yeah. So yes, do not like tailor your solution to a single city.
No.
But also like during the PCP, even though the suppliers cannot choose like which city they pilot in, we are still looking to kind of like pair the buyers group cities that are interested in the solutions that the suppliers are making to field the pilot, so that it is worthwhile for everyone.
Yes, exactly.
All right, but moving on, there is 3 questions about the phase 3 and piloting and like financing that. So I'm gonna like combine these all together. So, which basically comes down to when a supplier in phase 3 needs to roll out 3 pilots, 1 in the buyers group city and 2 in replicator cities, is the supplier supposed to cover any and all hardware expenses themselves, or who is covering the expenses?
Yeah, this is within the budget of phase 3. So yes, the supplier, and So the 250,000 euros is supposed to cover all the costs for the 3 different pilots. That's the short answer. And I mean, in practice, it might be that the cities where you bring your solution to are able to help to some extent. At least they will be able to help with permitting processes, with making data sources and maybe staff available, but they won't be putting extra money for hardware or something. So no, it needs to cover.
Yes, there was a continuation question regarding this one. So would the supplier have to buy enough devices to roll out the pilot in 3 cities? And the answer here is that, like, you don't necessarily need to field the pilots in exactly the same time in all of the cities. So the pilots are phased in a way in phase 3 that it starts with the biggest pilot in buyer group city, and then the replicator city pilots are coming a little bit later, and then the specific schedule will be defined with the supplier and the cities. So you do not have to like buy 3 times the equipment to do like one single.
And it will vary probably per supplier. Some indeed it will vary. The pilots can be done consecutively if it makes sense. If a supplier, there might be suppliers who don't need hardware, who are willing or able or eager to pilot in parallel, so that they are just happening at the same time in different cities. That's also okay. There's no let's say preference. If you can show you have enough staff, for example, to make that happen in parallel, that's also totally fine. But yeah, what Ari said, so consecutively is also okay.
Yeah, of course, it is probably a good idea to have a little bit of redundancy in your hardware, that you do not have like only one set of the devices.
Yeah. Plus, ideally, what would of course also be quite great is if there is a first a pilot in the main buyers group city, the bigger pilot, and that the learnings and experiences from that are taken towards the replicator cities already. So that's also one benefit of doing it consecutively. But it all depends on the timelines as well. So, but this to be defined together and in good cooperation with the phase 3 suppliers and all the cities involved. Yeah.
Yes. Jukka, you have your hand raised, so maybe you can write your question in the chat. If we have time, we can have like also voice calls, but this is up to Renske. But I do have written questions that are waiting their turn.
Yeah, go ahead.
So these ones are about the collaboration with the cities. So the first one is about if a supplier is selected for phase 1, when does the interaction and collaboration with the city start? And yeah, this is the first question. Here's like multiple ones. Like when does the collaboration with the cities start?
Well, the members of the buyers group in this project, they represent cities. So even though you will not know yet during phase 1 in which particular city you will pilot, or you will not tailor your solution to one specific city because it needs to be a scalable solution. It might be that you are interested to have certain travel data, for example, data on travel movements or data on temperatures or on I don't know, rain volumes in the city, or whatever type of data that maybe you wouldn't be able to get like elsewhere, but from a city. So then we can mobilize the buyers group members in the consortium to try to find that kind of data in their respective cities. So in that sense, you will be able to engage with the cities already during phase 1, like early on. But just to note that you will not be, you won't know yet if you indeed will pilot, where you will indeed pilot your solution in phase 3, if you will get there. Is that clear enough?
Yes, there are like a couple questions like tied to this as well. So one is that like will there be like a city delegation involved in the project, and do the cities provide help in designing the application regarding like cities' needs and infrastructure and some other functional requirements from the phase 1? Well, here I would point out that like each of the suppliers, you will be nominated a monitoring group, which will consist of the buyers group members, what Renski mentioned, and some other required city representatives. This group is your primary point of contact, and if you have some needs towards the cities, you can communicate to your monitoring group members, and they can like help with their best abilities. But in the phase 1 already, like I think that the interaction with the cities specifically won't be so deep yet.
We will also, of course, we don't know yet what kind of solutions you will provide to us, what kind of offers we're getting. So it also depends on, well, which will be the 20 chosen solutions and in which fields. And then we have, of course, already mobilized people interested, in the city, civil servants working in the traffic team or in the environmental team, or just the policy makers on the city side. They have been engaged already. So once we know the 20 winning solutions, it will be also easier to start involving them more regularly. Yes.
And in phase 1, when you will make the design of your solution, even though you won't be like so closely working with the cities by that time, the level of collaboration will increase from phase to phase. And for example, in phase 2, we will already have like much better understanding of like what kind of solutions the suppliers are making, and then also like what are the suitable cities and like who have the needs.
Exactly.
So
it will increase throughout the project.
Yeah,
that's right.
That's a question. I guess that's good enough answer for that. Well, there is like another question about collaboration related to the pilot in the phase 3. So the basic question reads like, can I know the level of collaboration by the pilot cities? For example, if we need specific data from traffic cameras or some other information details of the city, will they share it, or can we only count on the satellite data?
Well, these cities that are involved in this project are already, are dedicated and have been actively working on this now for a year. So I think that we can. It's our job as the buyers group members in this project to make sure that there's the high level engagement from the city. And of course we can't. I don't think we can be at this point more specific, but also building on lessons from other PCPs. We know that this is an essential part to put a good pilot in place as well, and that the cities will have to and will be as active and engaged as possible, also in terms of sharing data. But of course, we cannot already now make promises of certain types of data sources that will or will not be shared, because not every city has the same data sources, and some might be not open, let's say, or not be allowed to open. So, but we need to keep the answer a little bit more general here, I think.
But what comes to the data, like we already have those, the first set of the open data sources that we have published, and we do intend to update it all the time. And especially if you have any sort of data needs, just be upfront and open about it, and we will do our best to help you, like from the phase 1 onwards. But that was that question.
We have 10 minutes left. How many are there left?
Well, there are these questions I left regarding the mobility challenge. We could go to those. There are some new in the chat that I haven't picked up yet, but I guess we can go to this mobility challenge once. But I'd want to say first, if you have any interest in learning more about the challenges and the use cases, you can visit the challenge description page on our website, and also the tender document 2 has appendix 1, which describes all the use cases that we have validated with the cities. But do not take these use cases as a definitive needs that we are looking solutions for. You still need to identify real solutions by yourselves, and do not tailor any of the solutions to any of the cities. But yeah, there are 2 questions about the urban mobility challenge. So, what are the key goals and expected impact of the SPACE4Cities in the mobility challenge? Beyond the scalability and replicability, is the primary objective to enhance the quality of life of urban citizens, such as creating healthier urban environment and contributing to long-term urban sustainability?
I think it's mentioned in the descriptions as well, right?
Yeah.
In the section on the different themes, where we say that about, for example, cycling or walking, and optimizing public transport, and there's the descriptions are there. I don't think we want to repeat those now.
Yeah. In this webinar, we did not go through those challenges, in order to make more time for all of the Q&As.
Yeah.
If you also want more in-depth description, you can of course watch the recording of the first webinar as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not just about the kind of creating a healthier urban environment. It's also making the city more functionable, as we have use cases about optimizing the traffic and logistics.
And remember that the keyword is also dynamic management. That this project is about the dynamic management of urban areas. So that's also maybe next one shortly, because we have the time.
Well, this is specific about low emission zones. So many cities implement low emission zones, but there is a risk of shifting emissions rather than reducing them. In SPACE4Cities, is the goal to demonstrate low emission zones effectively lower emissions and enhance the quality of life. Yeah, we do have use cases in low emission zones. But how to answer this? Well, each of the European cities, they do have their own goals in low emission zones or implementing them, and we don't have a say in that. But if you, for example, have a solution that enhances the enforcement of the low emission zone, and especially makes it more dynamic, that can fit under the scope.
But you will see that in the requirements for so tender document 2, the functional requirements, there is not a requirement that says specifically describe how your solution reduces CO2 emissions, for example. So that is not, we don't have, that is not specifically the overall goal of the project. What I also still think is good to mention, I don't know if I said it already, but just to be very clear, that we're not looking for just data sets, right? It's supposed to be a service or a tool that has actionable insights for cities. And if your solution in relation to the question that was just asked also has, in addition to fulfilling the requirements that are mentioned in tender document 2, if it also allows you to reduce the emissions, then of course you mentioned that as well.
Yeah, there are still a couple of good questions. Thank you, Jukka, for writing your questions in the chat. Well, the first one goes back to the phase 3 funding. So as we already answered, it includes the software and the hardware and your own salaries. But you were asking just to be sure that will the pilot cities cover the salaries of their own involved personnel, and that is indeed true. That like you do not need to pay for the city personnel and the cities, they also have like a small budget in our project to cover extra expenses, but it's not an issue of suppliers. And your second question, phase 1 criteria says that use of space data is worth 35 points. If the solution only uses Galileo GNSS data, how many points does it get? Or other way around, does the solution have to use both Galileo and Copernicus to get 35 points?
No, the latter answer is easy. That's no, you don't have to use both Galileo and Copernicus. It's and or.
Yeah.
And you just have to demonstrate that that either one of those or both, that they are an essential part of your solution. That you could not do this solution without that particular data.
Yeah, and well, for the use of like space data in general, like if you have the number of sources and like the type of data you use, it doesn't necessarily increase the points. Like of course, like if you are using like more data and it is like reasonable to use it, and you use it correctly, then you of course like get more points. But this is more about the quality of your solution instead of like the quantity of the data.
Yes. Next question.
These are already answered. I think at least like all of the ones that I have recorded are now answered.
Okay.
I will check the chat if there are. Here's a question from Thierry. Can we envisage collaborations between several selective solutions? But I am not sure what.
Well, this is it's a competitive process. So we also so I would say no during the PCP process, but what we do know from previous PCPs is that it is one thing that the suppliers at least appreciate, that you get to know other companies who are perhaps working on somewhat similar topics like throughout Europe. And especially after the phase 3 has ended, there have been some collaborations between the suppliers that met, let's say, during the PCP, have been growing, or there have been, let's say, spin-offs or follow-up partnerships. So, but during the PCP is a competitive process, so it's not expected, no. But afterwards, hopefully, yes.
Yeah, but I would say that this is now all the questions.
Okay.
We have
Then there's still
or
slides,
the,
I think so.
like the compilation of the multiple questions together. If you have any questions still, there are still a few minutes left.
And there's so the deadline for questions to email to the questions@space4cities.eu mail address is the 25th of March. So there's still a month time for that. But do check the Q&A page as well, please. And yeah, there's one more webinar as well next month, 25th of March in the morning, which will take I expect a similar format as this, and will not necessarily have, let's say, new information or new slides that pop up as a surprise. It will be similar to this one. And then you will receive, after this webinar, an email from us asking for just feedback, which you can rate this webinar if you found it useful, and if there's any suggestions for improvement, then they are very welcome. All right, good. So thanks, Ari, for managing the questions. I think we are nicely on time, and it's a good moment to wrap it up. So thanks for joining us in large numbers, and for your high interest. We are very eagerly looking forward to your offers, and in the meantime, reach us via questions@space4cities.eu, and hope to see your offers by by 9th of April then. All right. Thanks very much. That's it, right?
Yeah.
Good. Bye.
Bye-bye.